Welcome to Study Faith with AI, where we use the power of AI to help you explore the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
I'm Meg Jensen.
And I'm Paul Carter.
And we're Google AIs. Whether you're a lifelong member or just starting to learn about the church, we're here to dive deep into its history, beliefs, and culture.
So if you're ready to learn, you're in the right place.
That's right.
Let's get started. Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be exploring the life of Emma Smith.
Oh, interesting.
And Emma Smith is the wife of Joseph Smith,
right,
founder of Mormonism. Now, you are particularly curious about her experience with polygamy.
Yeah.
Which,
a big one.
It's a practice that still sparks debate today.
Right.
Lots of different opinions on it, and we are going to get into all that.
Absolutely.
So to unpack this, we have got a really fascinating mix of materials. We have some biographical pieces on Emma from both FAIR, a group defending Mormonism,
okay,
and the official LDS Church website.
Interesting. So we've got sort of two sides of the story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we also have some excerpts from the work of Brian Hales,
okay,
who is a prominent Mormon historian. He has researched Joseph Smith's polygamy extensively.
That's going to be helpful to get his take on all this.
Yeah, so really kind of looking at all angles of this today.
Yeah.
So Emma Hale's story begins in 1804.
Okay.
She meets Joseph Smith Jr. in 1825.
Okay.
And they get married 2 years later.
All right.
Now, this is years before the Book of Mormon.
Wow.
Or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints even exists.
So very early on.
Very, very early on.
Yeah.
She is, not just his wife, but really a crucial partner right from the start.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. Her role as Joseph's scribe during the Book of Mormon translation.
Right.
That is so pivotal to the coming forth of the Book of Mormon.
Yeah, and just imagine the dedication and the trust involved in that process.
Exactly.
It really speaks volumes about their relationship at that early stage.
Right.
And her influence in the early church is so clear. I mean, if we look at the Elect Lady Revelation from 1830,
right,
which is recorded as Doctrine and Covenants 25, it's specifically addressed in Emma.
Okay.
And it's calling her to do really important things.
Yeah.
To expound scriptures, to exhort the church, and to compile a hymn book.
Wow.
This is huge. I mean, it's like a powerful testament to her agency and her significance within the movement.
Yeah. It's really striking how this early period of collaboration and respect sort of contrasts with the later introduction of polygamy, which undoubtedly casts a shadow over their marriage.
Right.
And it seems like that shadow appears with Fanny Alger, who is a young woman living in the Smith household in the mid-1830s.
Right.
This event, it really marks a turning point.
Absolutely.
In Emma's story.
Yes. And
the unfolding drama of early Mormon history.
Yeah.
The accounts surrounding Fanny Alger are often conflicting.
Yeah.
Benjamin F. Johnson, an early church member, claimed that Emma actually discovered Joseph and Fanny together, leading to intervention from church leaders.
Oh, wow.
But LDS apologists, they question these accounts, suggesting potential biases.
Of course, yes.
So it's hard to know exactly what happened.
Yeah, it's really murky. It's a murky period for sure. I mean, definitive proof of a marriage ceremony between Joseph and Fanny is lacking.
Yeah.
Yet, the impact on Emma and the trajectory of polygamy within the church is undeniable.
It's undeniable, yeah. It's like this crack in the foundation. Even if the details are debated, the emotional consequences are just undeniable.
Totally.
And, as we move into the Nauvoo period, from 1839 to 1844, this crack widens as polygamy becomes more formalized within Joseph Smith's inner circle.
Right, but here's the thing. Joseph didn't publicly acknowledge polygamy until much later.
Right.
So this secrecy, it created this sort of hidden world within the community.
Yes.
And it adds another layer of tension to Emma's experience.
Imagine the strain on their relationship. It seems that she was initially unaware of the practice.
Right.
But as whispers and rumors spread, her suspicions grew.
Yeah.
And, we have these accounts from individuals like Joseph Lee Robinson, who was a close associate of the Smiths.
Okay.
And he hints at Emma's growing awareness that something was amiss.
Yeah.
Something was not right.
And, her actions speak volumes.
Right.
She directly addressed the rumors surrounding spiritual wifery.
Right.
Now, this term at that time was linked to John C. Bennett.
Okay.
who was a church leader who advocated adultery, but he disguised it as religious doctrine.
Oh, wow.
So Emma, along with other women in the Relief Society, which was the women's organization within the church,
Right.
signed a statement explicitly denying any knowledge of marriage systems beyond traditional monogamy.
Wow. Think about the conviction behind that statement. It seems like she was actively trying to protect the church from scandal,
Right.
unaware that her husband was secretly practicing the very thing she was denouncing.
Right.
That's...
It's heartbreaking, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is. It's like, while Emma championed monogamy,
Right.
Joseph was proposing to women through personal revelations.
Right.
Framing plural marriage as this divine mandate from God.
Wow.
Yeah, he even proposed to women who were already married.
Oh, wow.
Introducing the complex and controversial practice of polyandry.
Yeah, the nature of these polyandrous unions is still debated today.
I can imagine.
You know, some historians believe they were purely spiritual arrangements for the afterlife,
Okay.
while others argue for physical relationships.
Right.
And this lack of clarity just adds to the mysteries surrounding Joseph Smith's polygamy.
Yeah.
There are these theories about why Joseph proposed polyandrous unions.
Right.
One suggests he sought to appease Emma by initially approaching only legally married women,
Okay.
thinking it might seem less threatening.
Okay.
Another proposes it was a strategic move to secure the loyalty of influential families
Right.
and to prevent exposure of the practice.
Yeah.
But the motivations remain unclear
Yeah.
due to limited documentation and just conflicting accounts.
Right.
But there's this one document that sheds some light on this period. It's called the Happiness Letter.
Okay.
And it's purportedly written by Joseph to Nancy Rigdon,
Okay.
who was the daughter of his counselor, Sidney Rigdon.
Gotcha.
Now, this letter is particularly controversial.
Okay.
It's not officially recognized by the LDS Church,
Mm.
though some prominent leaders have cited it in the past. So, again, there's this ambiguity that
Yeah.
just adds to the puzzle.
Yeah.
But in the letter, he uses religious language
Okay.
and scriptural examples to justify polygamy
Okay.
and to try to persuade Nancy to accept his proposal.
Oh, wow.
So it reveals how spiritual authority and personal desires were kind of intertwined
Yeah.
in his advocacy of plural marriage.
Right. And this just makes you wonder, like, did Joseph deceive Emma?
Right.
Or did he believe so strongly in the divine nature of polygamy
Right.
that he felt justified in his actions,
Right.
even if it meant keeping secrets and causing her pain?
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible to know for sure what was going on in his mind.
Right.
But what is clear is that Emma was caught in this web of conflicting information.
Yeah.
I mean, she was deeply devoted to Joseph and the church.
Right.
Yet she struggled with this practice.
Absolutely.
That went against her understanding of marriage and family.
Yeah.
So here we see Emma, dedicated, faithful,
Right.
yet facing this practice that challenged her core beliefs.
Yeah.
It really raises the question, what did she do?
Right.
Did she publicly campaign against polygamy while Joseph was secretly practicing it?
Well, there's no evidence of a public campaign against polygamy during Joseph's lifetime.
Okay.
But her actions, like denouncing spiritual wifery,
Yeah.
they unintentionally shielded his practice.
Yeah.
She was trying to uphold what she believed to be the true principles of the church,
Right.
unaware of the full extent of what was happening around her.
It's tragic, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
This example of these conflicting loyalties is a woman trying to reconcile her love for her husband and her faith
Right.
with a practice that she found deeply troubling.
And it's this inner conflict, this
Yeah.
tension between belief and experience
Right.
that makes Emma's story so vital to understanding Joseph Smith
Yes.
and the early church. It challenges us to look beyond just the official narrative
Yeah.
and really grapple with the human cost of religious innovation.
It's a reminder that history is messy.
Yeah.
It's full of contradictions
Absolutely.
and complexities, and sometimes the most important stories are the ones that don't fit neatly into a single narrative.
Exactly. Emma's story forces us to ask these tough questions about power,
Yes.
belief, and the ethical choices people make in the name of religion.
Yeah.
Before we delve into what happened after Joseph's death, I think it's important to unpack this term sealing.
Yeah.
It's really crucial to understanding the complexities of plural marriage
Oh,
in early Mormonism.
it could be really confusing.
Yeah.
Especially for someone who's like trying to grasp Emma's experience.
Right, exactly. So sealing in Mormonism, it signifies this sacred binding ceremony.
Yeah.
It unites individuals for eternity.
But,
It's more than just a wedding ceremony.
gotcha.
It's the spiritual connection that transcends death.
So how does this relate to the polyandrous unions you mentioned earlier?
That's where it gets intricate.
Yeah.
Some of these sealings,
Yeah.
like those involving women already legally married to other men,
Okay.
were sealings for eternity.
Okay.
Meaning they would only be valid in the afterlife.
Gotcha.
Others were sealings for time and eternity,
Okay.
indicating a relationship intended for both this life and the next.
Okay, so that distinction adds like a whole new layer of complexity.
Oh, absolutely.
So in some cases, these polyandrous sealings weren't about physical relationships in this life,
Right.
but rather spiritual connections for the afterlife.
That's one interpretation.
Okay?
And it helps explain why these unions were shrouded in secrecy.
Right.
I mean, they challenged conventional notions of marriage
Yeah.
and could have easily been misinterpreted,
Right.
especially by those outside the immediate circle of believers.
It also adds another layer to Emma's experience.
Yeah.
If some of these sealings were only for eternity,
Right.
it raises the question of whether she was even aware of that distinction.
Right. We
Yeah.
can only speculate.
Yeah.
But her staunch opposition to polygamy,
Right.
it suggests she may not have accepted this distinction.
Okay.
Or perhaps she simply couldn't reconcile herself to any form of plural marriage,
Right.
regardless of its temporal or eternal implications.
Yeah. And her unwavering stance against polygamy, it just becomes even more pronounced. After Joseph's assassination in 1844,
Right.
This is a period of just immense upheaval for the church.
Yes.
There's a leadership crisis,
Right.
growing divisions over the future of Mormonism.
Right. And amidst all this chaos, Emma remains in Nauvoo,
Right.
rejecting polygamy and holding fast to her belief in Joseph's prophetic calling,
Right.
even if she couldn't reconcile herself to this particular aspect of his teachings.
It's pretty remarkable. She didn't follow Brigham Young
No.
and those who migrated to Utah,
Right.
where polygamy became a central tenet of their practice.
Yeah.
Instead, she chose to stay in Nauvoo
Right.
and continue her life without embracing plural marriage.
It's a really powerful statement. It speaks volumes about her strength and conviction.
It does.
It's a stark reminder that even within a religious movement,
Right.
there can be divergent paths, different interpretations of the founder's teachings.
It makes you wonder, what Emma thought about those who chose to follow Brigham Young and embrace polygamy.
Right.
Did she see them as misguided, or did she simply accept that there were just different ways of interpreting Joseph's legacy?
We don't have direct evidence of her feelings towards Brigham Young or his followers,
Okay.
but her actions suggest a firm belief that she was upholding the true principles of Joseph's teachings,
Right.
even if others disagreed.
It's like she represents a branch of Mormonism that diverged from the main trunk,
Right.
holding on to a vision of the church that differed
Right.
significantly from the one that took root in Utah.
Her story really complicates the historical narrative. It challenges this notion that there was a single unified response to Joseph Smith's death
Right.
and the subsequent embrace of polygamy.
And it's fascinating how this division
Yeah,
has continued to this day,
absolutely.
with different branches of Mormonism holding distinct views on polygamy and its place in their history.
And Emma's branch eventually became known as the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, later renamed the Community of Christ.
Oh,
And they officially rejected polygamy.
right.
And Emma's unwavering stance against the practice played a significant role in shaping their identity.
So even though Emma remained in Nauvoo, physically separated from those who migrated to Utah,
Right,
her influence continued to ripple outwards,
right,
shaping the evolution of Mormonism
right.
in ways that are still felt today.
It's a powerful legacy.
Yeah.
She challenged the dominant narrative,
Right.
demonstrating that even within a faith community,
Yeah.
there can be space for dissent,
Right.
for different interpretations,
Yeah.
and for individuals who choose to follow their conscience, even when it means diverging from the mainstream.
This raises another question for me.
Yeah,
How did Emma manage to remain such a revered figure
right.
within her branch of the church, even though she openly challenged and rejected a practice
Yeah.
that was becoming increasingly central to the other branch?
It speaks to her character,
Yeah.
her strength of conviction, and the respect she commanded within her community.
Yeah.
She never wavered in her belief in Joseph's prophetic calling.
Right.
And she continued to contribute to the church through her hymn book, her leadership,
Yeah.
and her unwavering faith.
It seems like her personal integrity,
Yes.
her willingness to stand up for her beliefs,
Absolutely.
even when it meant going against the tide,
Yeah.
really resonated with those who shared her vision of Mormonism.
Absolutely. She embodied a different kind of faith.
Yeah.
One that wasn't afraid to question,
Right.
to wrestle with difficult doctrines,
Yeah.
and to choose a path that aligned with her own conscience, even if it meant walking a lonely road.
It really is a testament to the power of individual conviction,
Yes.
even in the face of immense social and religious pressure. It's a reminder that faith is not always about blind obedience,
Right.
but sometimes about finding your own way,
Absolutely.
even if it means charting a course that diverges from the established path.
And it's this courage,
Yeah.
this willingness to stand up for what she believed,
Yes,
that makes Emma's story so compelling
totally.
and so important to understanding the complexities of early Mormonism.
Yes.
You know, she offers a different lens through which to view the history.
Right.
One that challenges us to look beyond the official narrative.
Right.
And grapple with the messy realities of faith, power, and human relationships.
And as we move toward concluding our deep dive,
Yeah.
I think it's important to reflect on why Emma's story continues to resonate with people today,
Yeah.
over 170 years after her death.
Right.
I think it's because her story speaks to a universal human experience.
Yeah.
The struggle to reconcile faith with doubt.
Right.
The courage to stand up for what you believe in,
Absolutely.
even when it's unpopular.
Right.
And the enduring power of love and loyalty, even in the face of betrayal and heartbreak.
She reminds us that history is not just a collection of dates and events,
Yeah.
but a tapestry woven from the lives of real people who grappled with real challenges
Right.
and made choices that continue to shape our world today.
Let's delve deeper into those choices.
Yeah.
And their lasting impact as we wrap up our exploration of Emma Smith's remarkable life.
Okay.
The final part of our deep dive. So we've journeyed through Emma Smith's life, from her early role as Joseph's scribe to her unwavering stance against polygamy. It's a story that challenges those simple narratives we often create about historical figures.
Yeah, she wasn't just a supportive wife or, a victim of circumstance.
Right.
She was a woman of agency, making choices that shaped the course of Mormon history, even if those choices meant diverging from the path taken by others who revered her husband.
Yeah, and thinking about her legacy, it seems Emma's story is so crucial to understanding the evolution of Mormonism.
Absolutely.
It really shatters that image of a monolithic movement and reveals the internal tensions and divergent beliefs that existed from the very beginning.
From the very start. Yeah, her story reminds us that religious movements are rarely as unified as they might appear on the surface.
Right.
They're comprised of individuals, wrestling with these complex doctrines, navigating personal experiences, and sometimes coming to very different conclusions about what it means to be faithful.
And we see this so clearly in Emma's steadfast rejection of polygamy.
Oh, absolutely.
Even after Joseph's death, when the church was in turmoil and facing an uncertain future, she held fast to her convictions.
Right.
She chose to remain in Nauvoo and build a life centered on monogamy and her understanding of Joseph's original teachings.
It's a powerful testament to her strength of character. She didn't simply accept the changing doctrines promoted by those who followed Brigham Young.
Right.
She stood firm in her beliefs, even when it meant facing isolation and criticism.
And her decision to stay in Nauvoo and lead a branch of the church that rejected polygamy ultimately led to the formation of what is now known as the Community of Christ.
Right.
Her legacy is woven into the very fabric of this denomination.
It really is. Her influence extends beyond the specific doctrines she championed.
Right.
She represents a different way of engaging with faith.
Yeah.
One that embraces questioning, wrestling with doubt, and ultimately making choices that align with one's own conscience.
It challenges us to think about how we approach religious authority.
Yeah.
Can there be room for individual interpretation within a faith tradition?
Right.
And what happens when personal beliefs clash with established doctrines?
Yeah, these are questions that resonate with people of all faiths, not just those who identify as Mormon.
Right.
Emma's story reminds us that faith isn't always about blind obedience or unquestioning acceptance.
Right.
It can be a journey of questioning, searching, and ultimately finding your own path.
And sometimes that path leads you away from the mainstream.
Right.
As it did for Emma. She chose to stay true to her understanding of Joseph's teachings, even though it meant parting ways with those who embraced polygamy.
It's a reminder that truth is often complex and multifaceted.
Yeah.
There's rarely a single definitive answer to the big questions of faith and life.
Right.
What's considered orthodox in one branch of a religion might be seen as heretical in another.
Yeah, Emma's story really compels us to embrace this complexity, to be open to different perspectives, and to recognize that faith journeys are rarely linear or predictable.
Right. They're often marked by detours, crossroads, and moments of profound uncertainty.
And in navigating those uncertainties, it's important to remember the humanity of those who came before us.
Yeah.
Historical figures like Emma Smith weren't just names in a textbook.
Right.
They were real people.
They were.
With complex emotions, deep convictions, and the courage to make difficult choices.
Her story challenges us to move beyond simplistic narratives.
Yes.
And engage with the messiness of history.
Yeah.
To acknowledge the pain, the betrayals, and the resilience that shaped the lives of those who came before us.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately to recognize that their stories, even the difficult ones, can offer valuable insights into the human condition and the enduring power of faith, even when it takes unexpected turns.
Absolutely.
Emma Smith's life and her unwavering stance against polygamy continue to spark debate and reflection within Mormonism and beyond. It's a story that challenges us to think critically about the nature of religious authority, the role of women in shaping religious movements, and the ethical implications of practices that, even if rooted in sincere belief, can cause immense pain and division. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the life of Emma Smith. We hope it's left you with a greater appreciation for her complexity, her courage, and the enduring legacy she left on the landscape of Mormonism.
If you find value in this exploration, please like, share, follow, and consider becoming a subscriber. Your contributions help keep these conversations going and allows us to maintain the highest quality production. You can find all the details at studyfaithwithai.com. Thank you for being part of this journey.